Welcome to Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Shipp, and I'm excited to be sharing with you my life with a son on the spectrum. This podcast is for anyone who is looking for quick tips and perspective, but most of all, for hope and inspiration. So sit back, relax, and let's put the pieces together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Shipp. Thank you so much for joining us today. Last week, we had the great pleasure of speaking with Dr. Emily Levy. If you did not get a chance to check out that episode, please do. She had some wonderful insights on what you can do to help coach your kids academically. She has a fantastic practice called EBL coaching, and I highly encourage you to go back and listen to that episode if you haven't done so already. This week, I am especially excited to have Miss Jeanine Mouchawar on the show today. Jeanine is a compassionate and experienced parenting coach dedicated to helping families build stronger, healthier relationships, particularly between parents and their teenagers. Inspired by the teachings of Gabor Mate, she encourages parents to meet their children's needs instead of imposing rigid expectations. Jeanine's practical approach combines empathy, communication strategies, and actionable advice to foster understanding and trust within families. She's also the creator of the free guide, 5 Questions That Get Teens Talking, which has helped countless parents unlock meaningful dialogue with their teens. Jeanine's ultimate goal is to empower parents to create nurturing environments where both they and their children can thrive. Please welcome Jeanine to the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on, Nikki. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I was so excited because we did have such a fabulous discovery call together. And you touched me in so many ways on that call. I just knew that I had to have you on the show. And this is particularly very touches me right now because my son, Drayson, just became a teenager last month in February. And one of the things that I've been talking about is how can I open up that communication more with him? And it is difficult because I kind of have another layer with autism, with the special needs component. So could you share a little bit about your parenting journey and what led you to become a parenting coach? Because I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah. Thank you. I'd love to. Honestly, I've got 3 kids. They're all young adults now. Mm-hmm. And like many parents in the early years, we had fun going to the park and making cookies together and, snuggling up and reading Harry Potter. And I just felt like of course, there were challenges and it's not always easy, but overall I felt like so much love and connection. And, how fun was it that whenever they had a question or something, they'd come to me, and it just seemed like I could just parent intuitively and things worked well.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they started entering those high school years.
And
yes, my world turned upside down.
Yeah.
Right? It's like all of that connection just started to slip further and further away. And conversations I just noticed started to feel like a to-do list, right? Like every conversation, I'm like going through all the things that need to happen. And of course you enter high school and it's challenging and it's overwhelming for our kids. But what I was really focused on is, oh my God, your grades are plummeting, or you're spending too much time on your phone, or you're not getting your chores done, or you're being disrespectful. And again, I just kind of continued to parent how I knew how, which for most of us is the way we were raised. That tends to be the paradigm of rules.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Control, punishment, consequences, taking things away. And so that's what I did. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this just is not working. The behavior's getting worse.
Right.
My kids are pulling away even more and disconnecting. I was beside myself. I always prided myself. I went to Stanford. I'm like, I can figure out and solve anything. But boy, I sure couldn't figure this out.
I know. They always say
And
no one gives you a manual, right? When you become a parent, it's like you really kind of are in this no man's land. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I do feel like there are a fair amount of pretty good resources out there for
Yeah.
when you're parenting young kids, but really there aren't parenting teens. Believe me, I
Right. Oh yeah.
exhausted every resource I could possibly find. And but yeah, ultimately it got to a point where my middle son was started his senior year in high
Hmm.
school, and things where he was with a terrible group of friends doing some high risk behavior. Grades were plummeting. We were completely disconnected from one
Hmm.
another. And I just thought there's got to be a better way. And we ended up going to a program together where I learned new parenting communication approaches based in cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy,
Okay.
a lot about what you mentioned, Gabor Mate. Like he talks
Hmm.
about thinking about what does the child need
Hmm.
versus I think we don't even realize it, but we're super focused on what we want and need.
Hmm.
And that's what contributes to the disconnection. And so I walked away from this program, completely transformed my relationship with my son, and then really helped out my relationship with my other two, which was good. And it took it like from good to great.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like kind of what you said earlier, there is no parenting manual out there on how to parent a teenager. And I really just thought, really want to help other parents who are in my situation
Hmm.
just know that this is fixable and that you have the power, a lot of control and power to change what's going on. You just need to learn some different communication approaches, and
Hmm.
then things get very more calm and peaceful and smooth. And so
Right.
that's how I ended up, I found just researching like, well, how can I, help people and transfer this information? Happened upon life coaching, went and got my certification and combined it with what I had learned in this program and just doing more research on conscious parenting and and cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, and basically my 28 years of parenting
Hmm.
experiencing parenting three really different kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, combine that all together, started coaching. I've been coaching for about 8 or 9 years now. And
Okay.
so just continue to gather information from my clients and see what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Because
And
everybody's different. So I would think you would have to curtail based on that individual, right?
100%.
Hmm.
Everyone's different. Every child's different. And I really love to say, like, there is no perfect parent. That's
Right.
not what this is about. This is about figuring out one, like what's important to you.
Hmm.
Two, what
Hmm.
does your kid need? And then three, what's a better approach to get there when you're feeling like whatever I say, whatever I do is not working?
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And you've said so many things just even right now that I can identify with. My oldest son has grown and out of the house. And when he was a teen, it was very hard to reach him. I struggled a lot trying to keep that connection with him. It was very, very important to me. And there was a period of time where we kind of almost steered away from each other. And then, now we're much closer. He's in his late 20s and he's he came out good. So I'm happy about that. Like, you just want your parents or your kids to come out, being able to do good things in this world. And I really struck gold with him. But there was that period of time where I really, really struggled with him and I would be at my wit's end and I just did what I learned, like you said. So I would assume that there's probably some deprogramming that you had to go through going through that journey with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it takes some time to unwind. A lot of the language I think we all just naturally use is like, you should do this or you
Yeah.
need to do this, right?
Why
Or we
can't you
give
do that? Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, why can't you do that? Or why did you? Why do you have all those missing assignments? Right.
Yep.
And So a lot of it is just realizing like it's not that I'm saying, hey, throw your hands up and let it be a free for all. Like, no, not at
Right.
all. It's just when we use that kind of language, a teenager is
Yes.
trying to exert their independence and they don't want to feel controlled, right? So
Yes.
that language tends to feel very controlling to them.
Yes.
And what I like to help parents with is let's come up with some language that's more teaching,
Right.
guiding,
Right.
influencing, right?
Right.
We still have firm boundaries, and we also have a lot of compassion for all the big feelings that are going
Right.
on inside of them.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we forget, you know. I mean, I don't want to remember what it was like to be a teenager, but we know we all struggled, right? So it's like I think we forget that they're going through those struggles as well because, you know, it's easy to forget once you've gone through it yourself, right? Why do you think so many parents struggle to connect with their teenagers today? Do you have a theory behind that?
Yeah. I think that if I had to sum it up in a sentence or two, yeah, tell me if this resonates with you, Nikki, but we see behavior that worries us or concerns us or frustrates us, angers,
Mm-hmm.
irritates us, whatever it is. And we want it to stop,
Mm-hmm.
or we want to fix it, or we
Yeah.
want to change it.
Yeah.
Right. And so we tend to then focus the conversation around fixing, stopping, changing, kind of by what I shared earlier about what you
Mm-hmm.
should or need to do, trying, and they feel like that's controlling. And so what happens is it shuts the conversation down, right? They
Yeah.
literally say things like, get out of my room, or you
Yeah.
don't get it, or you don't understand,
Yeah.
right? They're feeling like you don't understand what's really going on inside of me because, like you mentioned, high school is like a different thing, right? They're
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed from the amount of schoolwork and stressed and anxious. Maybe they're humiliated or embarrassed that they've got a pimple or they wore the wrong thing to school or, right, the
Yeah.
social pressures, the academic pressures. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so they will literally say to us, like, you don't understand, you don't get it. And then when we as parents see
Mm-hmm.
that they're not changing or stopping or fixing this behavior we're worried about, right? The
Yeah.
missing assignments, the disrespect, the defiance, the lying, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is, we tend to like tighten the reins. And then that's when
Mm-hmm.
we start saying, no, you can't do that, or give me your phone. We take things away. We
Mm-hmm.
try to we tighten the reins and kind of almost control more, try to control more because we're more worried and angry and upset because they haven't changed
Because they
the
haven't changed their behavior.
behavior in the first place, right? And for many of us after that, we're like exhausted and we throw our hands up and we just give up and we just hope for the best. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of that cycle
Yeah.
where we're focusing on stopping or fixing or changing the behavior and the way we're communicating that
Mm-hmm.
causes the arguing. And
Okay.
it's really right. It's the arguing that causes that feeling of disconnection
So it's
and
kind of creating this vicious cycle without realizing you're creating this vicious cycle is, it you don't realize how it starts reciprocating kind of back and forth.
mhm.
That makes a lot of sense. And it kind of leads me into my next question is, what are some of the most common mistakes? And I don't want to say mistakes because I don't feel like, and maybe that's the wrong word, because I don't feel like it was a mistake for me, right, with some of my parenting. But what are some common things that maybe parents miss when they're trying to communicate with their teens? Because I mean, gosh, I wish I could have used you like 15 years ago, honestly. But I have another teen now, and I have, even
Yeah.
with Drayson, he's partially verbal. He doesn't communicate all the time, but I can sense his frustration even going into from preteen into full teenager now. I can sense his frustrations, but what are some common mistakes that parents make when they're trying to communicate with their teens? You kind of pinpointed that right now when you were just saying, like, when we say those things like, stop doing that, or why can't you do this, or kind of barreling on them. But is there anything else that maybe parents don't understand, that they're kind of creating more chaos than what needs to be there?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that you brought up mistakes because that was actually one of the very first things I learned in coach training that really surprised me, where they said, well, really, there are no mistakes.
Yeah.
You can't make a mistake.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Of course I can. What are you talking
Sure
about?
I can. And I don't want to screw up my kid from my mistake. Like that's
Exactly. I was like, that makes no sense. What are you talking about? But
Yeah.
they went on to explain to us that we really only view something as a mistake after the fact.
Oh,
And that
that's
really,
actually a really good point. Yeah.
and if you think about it, like at the time, we had really good intentions, right? We were doing
Mm-hmm.
the best we
Yeah.
could with the knowledge and the resources that we had. And so it's really only a mistake when you learn and grow and learn new things. And then you look back at that in hindsight and you think, oh,
Interesting.
I wish I'd done that differently. Right.
Okay. So we could treat them more as teachable moments. Would that be a better way to say that instead of mistake? Because I hate
You
using
know
that
what?
word.
Yeah, it feels so much better, right? If we just think about,
Yeah.
okay, we're a human, we're not a robot. And as
Yes.
long as we're like learning and growing and thinking about, okay, I tried this with my child, it didn't work. Well, now what do I want to do differently? Let's try something
Mm-hmm.
else. Right? Then we can be, it's much easier to be more compassionate for ourselves, give ourselves like a little
Mm-hmm.
more grace and
Right.
and just know like we're all learning and growing. And as long as we're trying something different
Mm-hmm.
and that that's all we really can ask of ourselves. So I just wanted to touch on that real quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I think the other place that really parents get stuck, um, other than what we talked about already, is I think it's so natural when we see
Mm-hmm.
our child doing something that we're worried about
Mm-hmm.
or we think's not good for them, to we get emotionally jacked up,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Like we're filled with worry or
Yeah.
anxiety or stress. Right? We have
Yeah.
our mommy fast forward brain that's like, oh my God, if
Yeah.
they don't know how to get up for school on time, how are they ever going to get to a job?
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tired, right? Or, oh, if they can't turn in these assignments, how are they ever going to cope in college or as
Mm-hmm.
an adult or wherever our thoughts go. But it's so easy to just kind of take what we're seeing now. Our mommy fast forward brain starts like saying all these things. We start the narrative in our
Mm-hmm.
mind starts going wild. And
Right.
then consequently, our emotions, our nervous system get jacked up, right? We get into
Yeah.
that fight or flight response. And so what we do is so many of us, when we see, like, we check the student portal and they're missing assignments, and then we just like go in for the kill. We're like, right, really emotionally reactive. We're like, what are you thinking? How could you
Yeah.
be missing assignments? This is your responsibility, right? And we mean well, we want them to be the best version of themselves, and we see them not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But when we engage and start a conversation in a like emotionally reactive state,
Mm-hmm.
that overwhelms our kids and they immediately push back and get defensive and
Mm-hmm.
shut the conversation down.
Right. And I
And
and I
so,
can attest to that. I've experienced that. I've learned over the years that Drayson feeds off of my emotions as well as his own emotions. And so I try not to project that because I don't want him to feed off of me. And also sometimes I try to take a step back because parenting for me has been a little bit different for him because he is autistic, that I've realized that he does absorb a lot more of what I'm projecting. So, and a lot of times for me to shift my mindset, because sometimes I think I go in with an expectation of what I think he should do.
right.
Why didn't he do this? Or this is
Mhm.
how he should do it. But really, am I setting that up, not him? And
Mhm.
that's something that I've really had to filter. And I know we talked about that kind of a little bit on the discovery call, because I
Yeah.
remember getting off that call going, oh, okay, that makes sense. What you were saying to me makes complete sense, And
Yeah, no, I think that's such a perceptive thing you just shared, right? Which
yeah.
is kids are emotional beings as well. And
Yes.
when you have a child with autism, or like in my situation, a child with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
this is a generalization, but I find it to be pretty common, is that they tend to feel things
Yes.
very deeply.
100%. Yep.
And so if we go into conversations emotionally charged,
Yeah.
these kids tend to feel that even more, and it feels overwhelming and they don't know what to do about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so they shut down by saying
Mm-hmm.
things like, get out of my room, or you don't understand, or go away. Or maybe in the case of Drayson, like he physically is like showing
Yeah.
you back
Right.
up.
Right. Or he'll just tell me like no or go away and then I'm
Mhm.
like, why is he acting that way? And sometimes I realize I'm like, oh my gosh, it's me. It's not like he's feeding off of what I'm putting out there, what I'm projecting, you know. You've talked about, you know, parents shifting from controlling scenarios to more guiding them. You know, how do you help parents to kind of make that mindset shift? Because we're kind of talking about that right now. You know, how do you help parents to make that mindset shift into more of those teachable moments for their kids instead of feeling like it has to be this controlled, rigid environment?
Yeah. Okay. I'd love to share some tools and resources to do that. But before, I just want to go back to what we were talking about, and just also for all of your listeners to think about, I don't know if this was, tell me if this was the case for you. This was the case for me. I find
Mm-hmm.
this is the case with most of my clients, but we were never taught growing up that emotions and feelings are normal and how to regulate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, if we weren't taught that, it makes sense that we have a really difficult time resisting the urge
Mm-hmm.
to yell or scream or
Yeah.
worry, right? And that we don't know how to first take care of our own self and our own emotions
Yes.
before vomiting them on our child. And I
Yes.
think that was just a moment in time when I realized that I realized I really need to be compassionate for myself, that
Yes.
I need to learn how to process my big feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't something that was ever overtly taught to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Do you
It's
feel
true.
that way as
Yeah,
well?
I do. I do. And I look back now and I don't get me wrong, love my parents. My God bless them. You know, they're going to be married 57 years this May. I could not have asked for two more beautiful people to be my parents, but they only taught me what they knew, you know, in
Exactly.
terms of you know, emotionally where to be at. And I was lucky because I did come from a household where, you know, we did talk about feelings now, but there was still even a level or a threshold with that because they didn't know anything beyond that. And so
Exactly.
I think, you know, yeah, I didn't realize that I also fed off of my parents when I was that age, you know?
Mhm.
And for me to recognize that with Drayson, I think part of the reason why I've had to recognize it a little bit more intensely, or I've noticed it more intensely, is because he doesn't always verbally communicate. So I've had to watch his behaviors. I've had to watch his
Mhm.
reactions and how he's receptive to me or not receptive to me or to
Mhm.
another person. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there's been times where I've been in therapies and I've had to advocate and I get kind of assertive and he's right there in the room. And then I can't understand why he goes into session with that person and he's being a total jerk to that person because I walked
Yeah.
in projecting all of this stuff to try to get stuff done for him. And now he's now closed off, even
Yeah.
within a therapy. So it's
Mhm.
like, you know, it took me a long time to see that, but I really had to kind of shift from being analytical to more intuitive, emotionally based is what I really felt like I had to tap into personally. So I
Mhm.
agree 100% with what you're saying. Like my parents just taught me what they knew. They didn't know the difference. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
it makes
exactly.
sense. It makes total sense what you're saying.
Great. I'm good. Well, I just wanted to kind of double click on that for a
Yeah.
second, just because I think as parents, we're so hard on ourselves and we beat ourselves up. And just,
Yes.
I think the more we can understand what's going on and why we are the way we are, why the situation is the way it is, we can have compassion for ourselves, for our kids,
Yeah.
and then be more open to new interventions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
To answer your
Absolutely.
question, sorry for
Yeah, no, it's
detouring.
okay. This is what I love this. I absolutely love this. And I know we've got, I have a few more questions, but I definitely still want to touch on that. How do you help parents shift from that controlling mindset
Mhm.
maybe to guiding them instead?
Yeah, I love that question. If I had to answer it with one, like the number one thing you could do right away to shift things is just after you take that breath and settle your
Mm-hmm.
own emotions, is to try to approach the conversation with a curious question
Mm-hmm.
versus telling them what they should do.
Okay.
Right. And see if you can take what your concern is. Like, let's say they're missing assignments. And
Yes.
instead of saying, why are you missing all these assignments? This is your responsibility. You need to get off your phone, right? Blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. Just try to shift to saying, okay, if I were to be curious and
Mm-hmm.
take a breath, get curious and start with a what question,
Mm-hmm.
what might I say? Right. So maybe instead I would
Mm-hmm.
say something like, hey, I noticed you're missing assignments. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're approaching with
Trying to,
curiosity,
yeah.
with this intention of, I really want to listen to you. I really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And like this is fixable and we can work together to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That you're
just
there, you're present, you're on their team. Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that really can be as simple as just asking a what question and really trying to resist the urge of telling them what they should do or need
Of
to do.
losing your mind because
And let me just say, this is really hard. Like, it took me a
yeah.
while to be able to do this. Like, I like to make it simple so people can walk away and think, okay, oh, yeah, ask that curious question. But that doesn't mean it's always easy. But
Yeah.
I think that's one way to start towards guiding, teaching, influencing, and walking away from a power struggle where
Right.
you're trying to control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely have had some trials and errors with that. It's like you said, it's easier said than done. At first, you're probably going to be like, I remember I accidentally kind of stumbled onto that with Cody, doing my older son, the
Mhm.
what question, because I was so fed up but it was in the peak of fighting. And I remember I said something like, I asked him, what do you want to get out of this? Or I said something. And when he actually answered me, it almost took the wind out of my sails because I was like, oh my God, he actually answered me.
Yeah.
But this kind of leads me into my final question for today is,
Yeah.
some of the extra challenges that we experience in the special needs community with neurodivergent teens, how can they adapt those parenting strategies into something like this to try to open up some form of communication with them to rebuild that bridge between the parent and the child?
Yeah. It's definitely more challenging. I mean, as I mentioned, I
Mm-hmm.
have a neurodivergent son diagnosed with ADD and a learning disability. I know you have
Mm-hmm.
Drayson. Um, it's definitely more challenging. So I think just to start there, and
Mm-hmm.
us parents, we need to have even more compassion for ourselves and realize that this isn't easy,
Mm-hmm.
but there are solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it starts with like where we were touching on earlier is neurodivergent kids tend to have big feelings,
Yes.
tend not to have great emotion regulation skills. In other
Yes.
words,
Yeah.
they have a tough time identifying that they're starting to feel frustrated or angry and then know what to do with it. So it doesn't
Yes.
come out in a way that is hard for us parents to hear it and just in a way that doesn't help them process their feelings.
Yeah.
So I have found, because I have about half of my clients have kids with ADD or they're just neurodivergent child. But it's like we kind of need more of a side door approach than like a
Mm-hmm.
front door approach. So a front door approach is when I think about when we're just being very direct,
Mm-hmm.
with our child. So like with two of my kids, I could probably say something like, hey, I noticed your assignments, you got missing assignments. What's going on? Like that would be very direct.
Mm-hmm.
With my other son, sometimes we need a more indirect approach where the energy behind it is the same, one of
Mm-hmm.
compassion, one of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of depending how they respond to you, we might need to shift the approach a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So it could be something insofar as it could be like a story where you are just telling a story about yourself that in
Mm-hmm.
essence is kind of walking a parallel path with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you're not even looking at them in the eyes, but you're in the same room where they can hear you. And you could say
Mm-hmm.
something, like, I got this huge to-do list and none of it's getting done and so much of it's missing and I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed and this
Mm-hmm.
just stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Or just something that's a little more subtle and what I call like a side door
An
approach. And
identifiable example, identifiable example. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if you see your child losing it and screaming and yelling, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just, a front door approach with a child who's neurotypical might be like, wow, you're really angry. Like, what's going
Yeah.
on right now? I really want to know. Like,
Yeah.
share with me. And that might work. With kids who are neurodivergent, I just remember my client this morning we've been working together about 5 months and she was giggling because she said her child's got ADD. In the beginning, she said, I can't use that approach, Jeanine. My kids just keep saying to me, quit talking about my feelings. Why
Yeah.
are you asking me how I feel? Right. And so we figured out like some more subtle approaches. And then here we are, 5 months later. And she got on the call this morning just laughing. Like now he can't stop talking about his feelings.
That's
He
so funny.
loves when I ask him,
I
like,
guess, yeah.
hey, good job on that math test. How do you feel about that? And he loves to tell me. So
That's awesome.
I think it's just recognizing that sometimes neurodivergent kids don't quite have the same like innate emotion
Right.
regulation skills that
Yeah.
maybe some of us can muddle through.
Yeah.
And the more we can just kind of recognize that, slow down and try to figure out, well, how can I get through to them?
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
how can I ask a curious question? If what they need right now is help processing their anger,
Mm-hmm.
like what can I say to help them with that?
That's wonderful. I love that. I love that. And unfortunately, I hate that we're running out of time. We only have about a minute left or so, but I do want to make mention very quickly about your free guide that you do have, the 5 questions that get teens talking. Where can parents find that and get in touch with you? Is it on your website?
That's the best way to find it. It's the
Okay.
easiest way. You just go to
Okay.
my website,
And they can
JanineMouchawar.com.
log into that. Okay. Oh gosh. We lost her. Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Gail.
Hi.
Gail, I'm so sorry. Could you log back in about 10 minutes?
Log back in in 10 minutes.
I'm so sorry. I had another guest. We were just closing up and it cut out as we were trying to close. So
no.
it's okay.
Okay,
It's
yeah, we'll
my
log out.
fault. Okay, I will be back in 10 minutes if you can just log back
In 10 minutes. Yep.
Thank you. So sorry. Thanks. I'm going to let her know.
Yeah, let her know to just log back in.
Yeah. So sorry, ! Go ahead and log back in, period. We'll finish up. Oh, I was afraid that was going to happen.
Was she supposed to be on at 3?
She was, yeah.
Oh.
But what happened was I was trying to wrap up Jeanine.
Yeah.
And
I saw and she popped in.
And she popped in and I had a feeling that was going to happen. I was like, shit.
I thought she would be at 3:15.
No, because I was booked till 3:45.
Oh.
So I was,
30-minute episode, right?
Yeah, so I was trying to give the 15-minute buffer from 3 to 3:45 is what happened because I knew I was only booked till 3:45.
Gotcha.
I was trying to follow the time.
So
log out and log in. Yes, log in, log back in. I literally just have to announce her guide and close out and that's it.
Okay. I think what we may do, if you're going to be just super heavy on guests from here on, is switch you over to a Zoom interface.
Okay.
So it still comes into our
That way it
system.
still holds them.
Yeah, there's a waiting room.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
It's okay. I'm not freaking out. I'm just freaking out.
Is that all? Oh, here comes Jeanine.
Here she comes. Oh, thank God. Thank God in heaven. Sweet Jesus, you're back. Yay! I'm so sorry. No, so I have another guest at 3, and because we were running a little bit behind, I didn't let her know. And so she logged in right as we were trying to close out. So I told her I would be back in 10 minutes, and she was like, okay. I'm like, I'm so sorry. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun here. It's really good. And Bill caught this all on camera. He caught my freak out all on camera.
Oh, yeah. The bloopers.
Well, isn't that what
I was like, shit.
editing's for?
I know. I was like, anyway, okay.
We were so close.
I know. So I'll back it up, Jeanine, and I'll just close it. I'm going to use to go into the last one about your free guide right now. So I'll just start from there, and then we'll just talk about that
Do you want me to
for a
spell
quick
out
minute.
my name for the website, or you want to just put it in the show notes?
I can just put it in the, if you want to spell it when I announce it, you can, or I can just, it's going to be in the show notes, and I'll follow up by saying that once you announce it. So, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Are we ready, Bill?
Take it away.
Bill's just, sometimes I love your facial expressions.
Thanks.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for that. Okay. All right. Here we go. Sorry, Jeanine. Okay. Here we go. So we just have about a minute left, but I want to make mention that on your website you offer a free guide called 5 Questions that Gets Teens Talking. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
they're amazing. Everyone should go get it and try them. The questions are like they're fire. Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to try them. I haven't downloaded it yet, but I'm definitely going to do that because when I was typing all this up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about her free guide. I need to get on her website and do this. So they can go direct to your website to download that, correct?
Yeah. It's just JeanineMouchawar.com, JeanineMouchawar.
Okay. And for those of you guys listening, I will post that in the show notes. So I'll have all of Jeanine's information there. And also, I'm assuming if they want to get in touch with you for some coaching, they can also go to your website as well. Is that correct?
It's one-stop shopping.
One-stop shop. There you go.
Resources, ways to contact me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Jeanine, I appreciate you so much for being here today. Thank you so much. It makes my heart happy that you're helping so many families and that you're doing such wonderful work. So thank you for all of your hard work and dedication in this industry. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I really appreciate you having me on, and keep doing what you're doing. It's a fabulous podcast. I love it.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. This concludes our episode for today. If you have questions, comments, or even a show topic that you would like to hear about, please feel free to send me an email at info@piecesformypuzzle.com. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook or Instagram if you haven't already, and feel free to check us out on YouTube. If you like what you're hearing, please spread the word to other people in the special needs community so we can help spread the word and cause more awareness. That's what I want, and to help as many families as we can. And also feel free to give us a good rating on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, keep working on your puzzle, and remember, you don't have to have it all solved in a day. Take care.